we really should charge for the pre-show consultation. We should have a separate subscriber status so you can catch the breaks and the post game shows and the pre-game shows before we get launched.
Yeah,
Hey, everybody,
if they think
Live.
coaches' jokes are good later in the show, they should get the ones before I hit the on-air button.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we appreciate everybody tuning in. It's Tuesday at noon. We come to you every week at this time with former Georgia Bulldogs head coach Jim Donnan, our managing producer, if you will, Dayne Young, who does a great job. And, of course, my name is Radi Nabulsi. I will be your host for the next hour or so. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And there's a lot going on. I mean, we're looking at some of the recruiting success Georgia's had. I think they had 5 recruits commit in May. And that's just in the 2024 class. And they had another 2025 kid commit yesterday, and Tay Harris out of Cedartown. 3 other commits in the 2024 class in June. A lot going on there. But we have a great show about that you need to catch on Monday night. It's called Rumors versus Facts. Those guys had Tay Harris on last night. They always have recruits on. It's a big deal. So we don't want to rehash a lot of what they did. I want to talk Georgia football in June. What's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs? We knew all those young guys, the last 6 showed up to class or showed up to enroll, and they're going through summer workouts. There's 8 hours of meetings that are going on. So let's pepper Jim Donnan with we have a former Georgia Bulldogs head coach here. He knows what happens in June. He knows what happens, what he's made his coaches do. So, Coach, while we're sitting here June 20th, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, a little bit different timetable now with the official visits in the summer. We used to have unofficial visits. People would come by, but now with early signing day. But really, the calendar is such that you got to build in these camps, these 7-on-7 camps, these individual workouts, and then you also got your own team that you got to develop too. So just from a standpoint of a 1, 2, 3 here, recruiting wise, they having official visits are winding down next weekend. This coming weekend will be the last official visit weekend for anybody in the country, and then you'll have a dead period. So most of the guys that are either committed to us or we're looking at have been here, although we have a few more coming in this coming weekend. And just for the fans, what happens, the guys come in, they go over to the south end zone, they have a speaker, they have some different people talk about UGA. If there's a lot of O linemen, then they bring back some ex-college O linemen that are pros now to talk to them. D linemen like Walker and Davis were here last week. And after that, they go out into the stadium, take pictures and do stuff like that. The recruits go out with their host, and the parents go over to Kirby's house, and they usually play dominoes and cards the first night. And then on Saturday night, they usually do some kind of karaoke and have a lot of fun, interact. But Saturday morning, they go for a tour of the campus, and they also tour the facilities, talk to the strength coach, the trainers, the nutritionists, and then they have a lunch. And then that night they usually rent someplace and really put on the food bag and eat a lot. And then Sunday morning they have a breakfast over at Kirby's house, and they all meet with him individually and their position coach. So that's an official weekend. So anyhow, during the week, though, the UGA coaches are just doing a yeoman's job. They're having 32 teams a day this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Last week, they had 32 on Tuesday, 32 on Thursday, only about 20 on Wednesday. I don't know what happened that day, but and as we mentioned last week, I think just to get these people on campus has a tremendous value, whether they're recruits or not. You're recruiting students, and you're also talking to coaches. You're getting young people around a college atmosphere. And not only do the skilled people come, but the linemen come too. And they have a separate workout against other teams where our coaches like Stacy Searles and Trey Scott will help them on technique and everything. So that's a really good competitive situation. And then throughout that day, today, Wednesday, and Thursday, they'll have individuals that have good skill sets, like Roddy as an old lineman or Dayne as a general manager. They would have them in and talk to them about what they could do and test them and everything. And then you also have your own team, which is the most important. They're going through strength and conditioning, agility. Some of them are taking, some online courses. And then in the afternoon, you can have them 8 hours a week. So they usually have about an hour a day mental meeting wise and about an hour on the field. And then the coaches have to leave when they do 7-on-7. So it's a really glued in type deal there. It's just the hour to hour, balls to the wall type deal. And
but this is the off season, coach. Aren't these coaches supposed to be relaxing?
now they get a chance to here in about another week. They have their vacation set up where over the next 3.5 weeks, they have certain days that they can be gone. And each coach has about 3 days where he's kind of the officer of the day, where you have at least one offense and one defensive coach here in case something would happen, or also there to just let the players know from a symbolism standpoint that coaches are around for the different things. But the coaches deserve some time off. The analysts and the GAs and all that, they're around, but you got the coaches, and then you got media days coming up, and then the first day of practice there in August. So it goes pretty quick, but that's a pretty good rundown on what's happening during the last few days, I think.
Summer is always an interesting time on campus because once students leave after graduation and it is the summertime, you just see all the construction equipment just emerge and take over campus as they try to do as much as they can over the next 2.5 months. And I think that that's important for people that are on campus. It's a lot of visitors on campus right now. It really becomes not about the people that are at UGA during the summer. It's people getting exposure to UGA. And I think that definitely happens with athletics. And I think we had a really good insight to a lot of the construction being done around campus. People need to go check out the podcast that Coach and I did with Josh Brooks last week, where he updated a lot of the short and long-term plans for a variety of sports at UGA. You see that happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, that you make a good point about, let's just say that like my next door neighbor, his son's looking at, and don't forget to mention Rachel too, the wife, but his son's looking at different schools, and he's going around visiting places. And in the summer, just like these recruits are, the prospective students are going and checking out campuses. So there's a lot to it's a big formative year for a young man or a lady going into their senior year in high school and trying to make that decision about where they want to go to college. And one thing I would say about local people on Georgia is sometimes you think you know everything about Georgia because you lived here, you went to Clark Central High School or Oconee or North Oconee or Prince or Academy, and you think you know everything about it. But go take an on-campus visit, go around and visit with some of the students and interact there, because sometimes the grass looks greener, but hey, stick around here. You got a great opportunity to go to a tremendous school here right in your backyard. And once you leave the nest, so to speak, you're going to be living in a dorm on campus. You're going to be joining a fraternity or sorority. So don't worry about, being too close to your family and all. But I would say this. Let me just remind you of this one point. Anybody that's not homesick, something's wrong with their home. I mean, that's what you should be. You should miss your family. You should miss your brothers and sisters and all that. But hey, you got to go on and step out on your own. And so much for philosophy from an old coach here. But
no, that's a good point, Coach. It's a good point.
I've seen that happen a lot. Everybody thinks they're so tough and everything. And one of the hardest things that first day of summer camp used to be when you saw that mom and dad drive off and these young men facing reality, they're getting ready to be on their own.
They got all the 2023 signees, a bunch of them are rolled early, plus you had the 3 transfers. Then you had the 6 that showed up here at the last few days of May. This is that summer you're away from home and you're working out against guys who, when you left your small town or you left your town, you were the number one guy. Everybody talked about you. You were recognized everywhere you went. Here, you are another cog in the machine. There are guys who are just as talented, who are 3 years older than you, who are starters, and you got to try to beat them out. It's intimidating, and you can get homesick. And all the little campers that come by, they get a little homesick. And those 7-on-7 guys, they don't see their home. All those 32 schools a day, that 7-on-7 thing is a grind if you're on that circuit. So there's a lot going on with those guys.
Yeah, I mean, they play like, I think 6 games. The championship team has to win like 6 games the way the brackets are set up and everything. But it's a lot of fun to see these guys and see them compete. And like I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, you got them from all over the East Coast. I mean, you had one in from Miami, Florida, some people from Virginia, North Carolina. I mean, Alabama. They're in here from everywhere.
Now, you know, no good football players come out of North Carolina, Coach. You know that. Come on.
Oh, you know, just about every 50, 60 years.
He's saying they're about due, is what he's saying.
Yeah. So speaking of good football players, Dylan Raiola apparently was in town. The number 1 player in the country, the 5-star Georgia quarterback commit. Coach, you mentioned that some of those guys come in and they work out for the coaches, and they in the 7-on-7 they can pull a guy aside and kind of look at him and test him out. And the big men come in and they go head to head, and Stacey Searles and Trey Scott and Chidera Uzudaribe are all checking those guys out, seeing what they can do. We see occasionally guys get called in and then they work out for the coaches. They get or at least hey, run this 40. Let's get a real time on you, not what your high school coach says with his very generous stopwatch. Let's get your height and weight. Like they just had that big kid come in from up north. He's 6'8", 370 pounds. They get some good weights and numbers on these guys, but it's also a chance for you to kind of, I don't want to say weed through because that just sounds wrong, but see what these kids can do in that testing setting. So how much of that's going on?
Yeah, what the legality of it is, you can have a camp as long as it's publicized, and kids pay certain amount of money each kid. I think pays $45-$50 for like the daily thing, and once you get them here, then you can, if it's not enrolled in the camp, you certainly can't try them out unless you're some slap place that does it anyhow. But there's rules there, and it's good. You bring them in here and let them throw to some receivers and see what they can do. But one of the things for anybody that was up in Mars or Pluto last week, they had the Elite 11 where they had the top 12 or 14 quarterbacks in the country, and Georgia was represented with 2, with Ryan and Dylan out there, and they both did extremely well. I talked to several of my friends that actually are involved with that, and they marveled at not only their arm strength and accuracy, but their just football acumen, their ability to relate to the other players. And it's not just the guys that are quarterbacks there. They got to have some people to throw to. So there's some really good receivers, some DBs, and the name that kept coming up over and over and over. Ellis Robinson. That guy, they just talk about it. He said that he jumped on, he could cover. They thought he's going to go over to the Rams camp and cover some of their coaches. I mean, this guy is, woo. I mean, make my mouth water right now to hear that kind of stuff. And the guys that are telling me that, I mean, they're not like Dayne telling me where I know it's 100%, but they're close. These guys got some really good vibes on people through the years, and I think it's good to hear that from people outside your own recruiting mesh here. Some people that are looking at them that have run these camps forever. We used to have a tremendous relationship with Trent Dilfer. Now he's the coach at UAB, but Trent would give me all the rundown on these guys and say, hey, well, I'm not this high on this, I'm not. And now I'm getting it for some other guys. I'm not going to tell you who, but they were both talking. I mean, all 3 of them couldn't say enough good things about our 2 quarterbacks. And really the quarterback from Alabama that was kind of up in the air, we didn't know what he was going to do.
Is that him calling now?
Hey, don't give away our secrets.
That's one of the sources right there. It's saying, Coach, you better.
This guy here wants to know what time we're going to do the pizza commercial.
Ellis Robinson, folks, for anybody that may have forgotten, the number 1 cornerback in the nation, according to the Rivals rankings, number 22 player overall. I wasn't sure. I thought he was 25. He actually moved up to 22, right on the cusp of being named a 5-star player. We had a ton of rivals guys out there evaluating the top, like Julian Sayin, the Alabama commit, Ryan Puglisi, the Georgia commit, Dylan Raiola, the Georgia commit, and there's a reason we update rankings multiple times throughout the recruiting cycle. Namely, because you go see a guy, you get more information. You can move him up or let other people move ahead of him depending on what you've seen. And you got to think that when Ellis Robinson goes up there and tears it up, that they feel very confident in having him ranked as the number one cornerback. And they're like, is he a first round draft pick? If he is, then they'll give him that 5th star in their estimation. And Ryan Puglisi right off the bat, and a lot of people keep talking about how he's the other QB, the QB2, and the backup to Dylan Raiola. And I'm telling people, do not make that assumption. Do not shortchange Ryan Puglisi. There's a reason Georgia went after him. They actually let a couple other quarterbacks that wanted to come to Georgia, go somewhere else, and they went full in on Ryan Puglisi. They like him, and so you have 2 strong quarterbacks coming to Georgia who are going to have a good fight next year. So it's going to be fun to watch.
The Elite 11 gets a bit more coverage every year. And Coach, it was actually one of your friends that we've done a podcast with before, Bruce Feldman, that he wrote about it for The Athletic. He had one of the best lines in there just to kind of give gravity to what we're looking at with these prospects. And it was something like 30% of 4- and 5-star prospects pan out to even be starters in some cases. I don't remember the exact number it was, but it was just the gravity of these are all really good prospects, and it's a low percentage to make sure you get one that's going to be a star for you.
Right. So usually speaking, the guys 4 or 5, in between a 4 and 5 star, pretty much close to can't miss unless he just doesn't want to put in the work and keep getting better. But I don't get too caught up in these stars like some people do, but I do get caught up in other people's recommendation that are watching them and comparing them to people in the past. You know what I mean? Just like give you an example about how Armstrong compared to a certain other guy that's been there, has some of the same characteristics of this guy, all that's good. That should be good for Georgia. Go, anybody's a Georgia fan here, go get you a piece of key lime pie, listen about the quarterback.
Quarterbacks. Hey, so you don't get into stars. I do want to talk about somebody who does get into stars, and that's our friends at Athens Ford. They do a great job with their 5-star Fridays, in which they get 5-star reviews from some of their people who have bought cars from them. So Athens Ford, they do a great job making you happy when you come in. They're not there to push a car on you don't want. They're fine if you just come in, look around. They'll help you out. And if you want to look without being bothered, trust me, they'll let you do that too. If you have any questions, there'll be Johnny on the spot to help you out. And every time you go to, I think it's Rate My Dealer or whatever that web service is for rating car dealerships, they always have 5-star evaluations. And people, they've only been around like 10 years, but the amount of repeat customers they have is phenomenal. And everyone says, would you buy from them again? It's in the upper 90 percentile of ratings. A quick deal right now for you to know, if you want to get a 2023 Ford F-150 XLT, you can get up to $6,000 off and 3.9% financing for 60 months. And the Ford Explorer, up to $5,000 off MSRP and 3.9% APR financing for 60 months for qualified buyers. So 2 of the best-selling vehicles in the nation, Ford F-150, the best-selling truck in the world, and the 2023 Ford Explorer. I am a big advocate of the Explorer because I have one, and they are phenomenal vehicles. Speaking of phenomenal, I also mention our friends at Prime Shrimp. If you go into grocery stores in Louisiana and Alabama, and soon in Georgia, you will be able to get Prime Shrimp in the boxes there. You don't even have to have it delivered to your house. Just go to check out the freezer section. But if you are not in one of those areas and you would like to have some Prime Shrimp delivered to your house, go to primeshrimp.com, use promo code UGASports, get 20% off your first order. They will send it to you directly to your house. It'll come frozen with some dry ice, put it in your freezer, and then when you are ready, you just drop the little bag into boiling water, and you have perfectly cooked shrimp every time that is seasoned beyond compare. You will be very, very happy with it. I guarantee it. If you don't like it, let me know. I'll see what we can do for you. But I've never had anybody say they didn't love Prime Shrimp. So hit them up.
Coach gave the rundown of what coaches do in the summertime. What sports media people do, at least my friends in my circle, we try to predict which Georgia players will be the ones representing UGA at SEC Media Days. And so I want to group think this for a second because I have a list of, I think I have 5, and so I need help in selecting the 3 among these. Coach, let me know if I'm missing someone that you think has a shot to represent Georgia here. But I have Cedric Van Pram, Zion Logue, Javon Bullard, Brock Bowers, and Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, I mean, you got to – Van Pran's going to be there for sure. Bowers more than likely, although – they're going to have to get something to say, get him to say something. You know, he just doesn't like to talk. And then I think it's between Bullard and Thomas and Pop for the other one. I would say those would be the people, the 3. You know, McConkey could come in there for Bowers. Only reason they wouldn't take Bowers is just because he's such a quiet guy. But you know, he's very good to interview if you really. He just doesn't like to talk about himself. I mean, that's the kind of kid he is. But I can tell you this right now. I went over there the other day, and I started to go out there and grab him and say, look, Brock, would you please just go back to California until September? You're going too fast, man. I mean, God. I mean, this is dynamo out there. I mean, he set such a good standard for everybody else. And you know, he just doesn't know any way to go but 1,000 miles an hour. But I've never seen anybody that can consistently go at the rate he goes, no matter how many reps or how many. He's always going like optimum. So just everybody just needs to pinch himself and know you got this guy for one more year.
The other name that I had on my list was Kamari Lassiter, if they would think about taking him.
Second year, though, I don't think you. I mean,
and they need to take this because you got to have the defensive guy. So as Coach mentioned, Pop would be a great choice. I think
Pop and Bullard.
Yeah, Bullard.
Yeah.
Of course, Zion Logue is very articulate. Have you listened to him interview?
Oh, absolutely. I love interviewing him. But I think for the guy that actually fulfills the media's desire at media days, and they want the sound bites, they want energy. Got to take Nazir Stackhouse from the defense. That'd be the.
How about Warren Brinson? He interviews everybody. So I mean,
exactly.
He's going to get on the wrong side of the room.
Warren's a great interview. And if you go to the front page of UGASports.com today and you read about some of the players that just finished their official visits to Georgia, all of them are talking about character and fit at Georgia. And Coach, we've peppered you with questions. Every time Georgia has an opening on the offensive or defensive staff, we ask you about, possible guys going in. And you always hammer the fact that they have to fit the staff. You can go get the best offensive line coach or best defensive line coach in America, but if he doesn't fit the staff, it creates more problems than it solves. So,
yeah, when you've got a proven entity, you want to keep going the same way, and so you got to be careful about how you would, who's going to be taking on that role. So it's not like a team that's not winning and you have constant turnover and everything. So he's hit, I'd say he's hit every hire he's made since he's been here, except maybe 2, and that's pretty good.
That is pretty good. And when it comes to the recruits,
what does that say?
This is my June 20th prediction. I just want it to be out there. Cedric Van Pran, Javon Bullard, Ladd McConkey. That's who I'm going with for my prediction for media.
Well, I mean, it's easy to do, and we just told you.
You didn't. You told me to put down Pop. I don't think they're going to send Pop.
You gave us the name. You don't think they'll take Bowers, the number 1 player in the country? You don't think he'll go?
I think that he should go. I think that there's a chance that he doesn't want all that attention and decides not. He may not have a choice, and he has to go anyway.
Yeah, they're going to say
somebody's going to tell Kirby, "Hey, Coach, I'm not going."
Yeah, he's going to say.
I also think the SEC may tell Kirby we need Bowers there.
Absolutely.
Any difference? SEC can tell them who they want to, but Kirby's going to take who he wants. But
just to finish up the point there about the recruits that we're hearing from Kirby and all the coaches talk to them about fit and character. And that translates into a very long list of, and I've heard people say there's culture issues, which is some BS. Guys can be stupid. That doesn't mean it's condoned by the university. They could do stupid things. But when it comes to the list of potential players to go speak for this or to go to do these charity events, it is a long list of guys who are very well spoken, who can think on their feet, who can answer tough questions, who don't cross Kirby's line of giving out too much information, but still give us enough insight into the program. So I know we'll have a couple guys there at the SEC Media Days in July. We've made our reservations. It should be fun, but you couldn't go wrong with anybody on your list, Dayne. And that list could be literally 30, 40 more guys deep.
They're all they get training in that. They get training, media training. This collective that they're in now, they have to be on these videos to get some of the money that's paid. So they'd have to do those. But
that's a good point. But I mean, you could send Kendall Milton, you could send Jalen Walker. I mean, the list of Smile Monday. There's a ton of guys.
Here's the other thing. You talk about goodwill and everything. Here in the next few days, they always go to Camp Sunshine. Take a group of a full busload 2 different days. So I'm sure they're looking forward to that. And then about maybe a week ago, they went on a leadership deal where they went out and bonded and they shot those paint guns and had mission against each other. It was a lot of fun. You got to keep working to build that connectivity and working with each other. And it's a lot of fun to do things like that.
Well, I'm thinking if I'm on a retreat like that and they're having paintball gunfights, I want to go with the offensive linemen. I want to go with the big boys that can hide behind them. Dayne, I know that you got a list of offensive linemen. We've been doing a position breakdown. We did last week, and we had some really good feedback on talking about the wide receivers, the running backs, and the tight ends. But Stacy Searle's got a microscope on him. He comes in after a couple great offensive line coaches, and Matt Luke and Sam Pittman. And all the eyes are on him, and his offensive line was pretty damn good last year. But, all the eyes are on recruiting and all eyes are on the current roster. So let's hit that real quick.
Yep, we're going to run through these. One more thing
I want to mention about the official visit, since you talked about the paintball. They've started doing this deal where they go over and throw these hatchets, and these kids really love that. I don't know if that's the word hatchet or axe throwing and all that, but they go out and a lot of fun doing that. And then sometimes they play charades. They do all kind of things just to kind of, icebreakers with the kids, and it's just something to do different. So
apparently Searles is the master of axe throwing.
Who is?
Stacy Searles.
Is that right?
That's what I heard.
Good. I'm glad to know that. I hope he can. One of those other D-line coaches will.
Let's get to the masters of the offensive line. Quick hitters on each of these guys, starting with the center, Cedric Van Pran.
Well, I was glad Cedric came back. He had a chance to maybe be drafted middle of the 3rd or 4th round last year. It's just hard to he's kind of in between size a little bit in certain areas, but very articulate at the line of scrimmage, knows offensive structures, knows protections, can read defenses. And he's a hard worker. He sets up a really good standard for those younger kids. I mean, he plays through pain. He's a tough kid. And he's got to be among the top 2 centers and the returning centers in the country.
Starting right guard, Tate Ratledge.
Well, Tate had some issues here his first year, going in the Clemson game. He got that injury and missed so much, but he came back with a big year last year, had a great spring. He's a lot bigger than you actually know he is. On watching the on TV, he's just a massive guy and very personable and good manners. And he's kind of got a little mean streak in him too. So got good feet, can pass protect, and our right-hand side of the line's got to be among the best anywhere with him and Mims coming back. Mims got to play a lot last year. And, I talked about him when he first came in here. He's the most prototypical looking old lineman I've ever seen. and had a little bit of setback here last week. Got mono, so I'm not sure that he's back out there yet, but he's a very good. Got a really good frame of about where he is and what he needs to do to keep working, and always got a smile on his face. Really good player.
One of the most experienced offensive linemen on the team will go to left guard, Xavier Truss.
Truss started out here as a tackle and then played in that game against Cincinnati, and then has been back and forth. He can play tackle, but a very workmanlike guy that's does his job. Doesn't get enough credit for what he does good. Sometimes people are a little bit overcritical of things that he doesn't do, but he's got good mobility, and I think he realized that for him to go to the next level, he's going to have to keep straining and keep working because he doesn't have some of the traits that some of these other guys do, but he's definitely got some mass, and he's got a lot of experience. He's played in some big ball games for Georgia, and I'm glad we got him.
It's a battle at left tackle. We'll start the discussion with Ernest Green.
Ernest Green is just what I call a baller. I mean, this guy can play. His dad was a pro O-lineman. He injured himself last year and had to get a repair, but I think he's really come back and come on strong. He's got a very competitive situation there with Blasky for that other position at left tackle, who's got a lot of experience. But Ernest Green is the kind of tackle that Georgia's played with like Andrew Thomas and Broderick Jones and Salyer. I mean, he's what you're looking for, and he's got a tough fight there because Blasky just goes out there and competes, and he'd be the other guy that'd be the sixth guy or the fifth guy, one of them. Blasky's just hung in there, good technique, knows how to compete, and I'm glad we got him too.
Yeah, the thing about him is if something happens with Van Pran at center, then Blasky is currently the number 2 center. And so that's a unique combo to be a tackle center.
He can play center, but of course we got going on to the center. We got Jared Wilson, who was a highly recruited kid from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, that we got that really chapped North Carolina and all those people because, everybody's thinking he'd stay in state, but he's really good player. Got good feet, athletic, and could play guard too. So he's going to play a lot here in the future.
Let's go to Micah Morris.
Micah Morris is a guy that got hurt early on, but really, I'm sorry here. I'm going to have to look at my notes here. I was doing pretty good, but I had some things on him. But I like Mike. I like the fact that he, came back and got going after he got hurt. And he's got good size. I mean, really good size. Probably not as – if you just look at his stats, you don't realize how big he is. But he's probably of the next group of linemen that we have after those 6, the most talented. Wilson's probably the most athletic. Then you got Dylan Fairchild, who's the strongest and very nasty, can play multiple positions as a weight room freak, can do a lot of good things there, and just got to transform that to the field. Then the other guy we got is Lindbergh, who can play guard or tackle, was highly recruited, has not got to play a lot. It's been good on special teams, but really has a good knowledge of how to play the techniques that Stacy wants. So he can come in there and fill in a backup role. And then coming off of that, we've got 2 freshmen that have been around here, redshirt freshman Drew Bobo, who really has come on strong at center and got good feet, very athletic. I kid Mike, he got a lot better feet than Mike had. He's a big guy, he can lean on you. But the guy that's come in here early that's done pretty well is Monroe Freeling, who was highly recruited from South Carolina. Stacy knew about him when he was in North Carolina. This guy really took the benefit of being around here, a lot like Sperling all spring. He's redeveloped his body. He looks good. He'll be ready to play if called on. not experience wise, but now he's got the length and the leverage, and his strength is improving. He to me, he's a guy that really makes the future look good. And we got 3 guys that showed up here as that started coming in here early, with the freshmen when they reported that they're just not ready yet. I mean, they got to get some size as far as girth and all that, and they're behind in the scheme and all. But that gives you a pretty good rundown on what the O line looks like. To me, I think the biggest key is our front line O line is as good. Of course, we probably won't win the award. Michigan will win it again, the award. But
let me mention a couple of these names just to make sure we have them. Joshua Miller, Jamal Merriweather, some of the incoming freshmen. Alou Ba, I know there was some talk that he might transfer. He's still there.
We got him, and we got that Miller. Did you mention Miller?
Joshua Miller.
Yeah, he's going to be okay. And Ba has done some good things. He needs to keep working. School's still out for me on him. I think he's got some size, but he just wasn't ready when he got here. And fortunately, he's hung in there and worked hard in the weight room, but he'll be okay.
And I want to give
I mentioned Michigan. There's something that I read that just really made me happy. Ohio State last 12 games against the SEC 2-10.
Whew.
Going to cry me a river about that last game, but what about all those others? Ohio State, they were a good team last year, no question, best team.
They want to mention 2 walk-on scout team offensive linemen that have just been with Georgia for a while: Miles Johnson and Chris Brown. They've been with the team and they're invaluable.
Hey, those 2 guys come to work every day, go down there and take it. I mean, they go hard against some good D linemen, and they do a good job for us.
Did we mention Bo Hewley out of Fairburn?
Did not mention Bo Hewley because, I'm a bad producer. So there you go.
I just think
Bo got to keep working too. I mean, get working on his strength. But I like the guys. All guys are. To me, it's a leverage game. I mean, it's just back in the old days, you got those nose guards that were 5'10", that could jump around and all that, and you had those offensive guards that bite them in below the waist and bite them in the areas that you're not supposed to. But you just don't. You got to get the leverage now.
Yeah, you did mention him, Coach, from the 3 freshmen that came in, but I wanted to hear on him specifically because that was kind of a fun recruiting battle to watch as well. Offensive linemen want good food. They want to eat a lot. That's what they do. So if you have an offensive lineman in your life, or you just want good damn food, swing by our friends at Your Pie and get one of their specialty pizzas. Get their Lineage Supreme, their barbecue chicken bacon ranch, the hot honey pepperoni, the Great White, the avocado bacon club. My favorite, the Southern Heat. There's some fantastic pizzas there, or you just design your own. You tell them what sauce you want, what crust you want, what sauce you want, what cheese, and all the toppings. We've had a few people said they tried it for the first time and they absolutely loved it. I'm actually going to go to Italy next month, where they got the idea to create the Drew and Ellie French. I think they were on their honeymoon. They were in Ischia, Italy, and they said, this is a great concept. So they created it from scratch, and now there's 70 locations. So it's the best of Italy. It's great pizza, designed by a great family who knows what people like, and it's been a wonderful success. So hit up Your Pie. If you want to order online today, it's double points Tuesday. So if you use the Your Pie app on your phone, you'll get double points. Those points add up very quickly to get you free pizza. So hit them up when you get a chance.
They have the peach and prosciutto back, Roddy, which is a favorite every summer, but now they also have a hot version of it. I think it's called like a kickin' sizzling peach deal. So you need to check that one out.
We'll check that out. Speaking, we mentioned that there's a lot of Your Pies out there. They franchise the concept, but if you don't want to do a Your Pie franchise, but you're thinking of becoming your own boss, you're thinking of getting out and doing things yourself. You want to be the person who gets all the money and pays other people, and you're in charge, and you want to get out of your the rat race and get out of your dead end job. Go to myperfectfranchise.net. Reach out to Andy Ludecki. He will take care of it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Reach out to him voicemail, text, go to his website, set up an appointment. Just call him. He will take your call and he will run you through the process of kind of evaluating franchises, what's good and what's bad. And you're not going to get taken. Again, he doesn't charge you a dime. He helps you avoid the pitfalls that some people make when they decide to go out and franchise. He's been very successful getting people into it because he's done it himself. So there's 3,000 different franchises out there. He will find the right one for you. Reach out to Andy Ledecky. It is a no-brainer. It's one of the easiest things you'll ever do to improve your life. So hit him up and let him know we sent you.
We're going to get to some questions from our fans here from UGASports.com, or if you're watching us live on YouTube or Facebook, leave your questions over in the chat, and we'll get to those before the end of the show, including some that we didn't get to last week. Coach Cajun Dog on the DawgVent wants to know what type of wrinkles might you see with the offense with Coach Bobo at the helm?
You always got inherent things that you like as a coach that maybe a little bit different than what the previous guy had. So Mike's always been really good at using the play action pass, when you watch Murray and Stafford and all those guys, because they're such a good, strong running game. I think we'll see maybe a little bit more outside zone in the running game, maybe a little bit more misdirection in the passing game, maybe not quite as many drop back passes and more play action, but and some screens to the backs. He's always liked those too. So those are some of his MO as far as in the past. Now, a lot of times when you take over something, you don't want to change too much, but I can guarantee you that he's going to have a lot going to number 19. And you're always looking for a wrinkle there. And I saw this play a couple weeks ago that I really liked. I sit around and watch tape all the time, and just like out of empty formation and put the back in motion. That's a slot into the boundary. Usually when he goes in motion towards the trips, he'll be the guy you throw the ball to, but this team put him in motion, and then he came on and became a blocker on the perimeter, and the inside receiver stepped up and then caught the quick screen. And immediately I thought about Bowers doing that with the back being the blocker instead of the catching the ball. And I showed it to him. I'm sure they won't use it, but it'd be good play. I'd use it. Anything you can get the ball to Bowers to, I'd do it.
I was always impressed with how Bobo used tight ends in the offense. I have to imagine when he becomes the play caller, which he's been involved in the last year, so this is not a new thing that he's around these tight ends, but he's just got to be salivating at the level of tight end he has on this team.
Yeah, and one of the things in his early formative days as a coach, we had some positions here, and I made Mike a graduate assistant, but there wasn't anything available in the offensive backfield or the quarterback situation. So he helped Coach Atkins with the tight ends for a year. So he learned a lot about pass protection, run blocking, route running, all that from Coach Atkins, who at that time we had Randy McMichael and Javaris Johnson and Larry Brown, some of those guys, Wiggins. So he's around some pretty good tight ends.
UGA Alum 95, one of our regulars with the questions, has a pair of them, one from last week, one from this week. He says, Coach Donnan, do you think Carson Beck will be ready by the Carolina game? And if he struggles in any early games, do you feel confident that Kirby sticks with him or goes to Vandergriff?
Well, anything I say could be right or wrong there. I think what's going to be really impressive for all these kids are important too, is how they work this summer with the other players and against our defense. I like the fact, and everybody that watches this show knows that we practice against each other and all that, but the difference is that now you can do all this stuff prior to practice starting. I mean, we'll have an install all summer where we'll go over, again, what we've already installed in the spring. We're starting it over now. And then they'll start it again with fall camp. So they'll be on their third install of the same stuff. and they'll be going against our defense, who everybody knows is really good. So how you perform all summer is going to help you as a kickstart going into the fall. And he's got two guys breathing down his neck, not just Brock Vandegrift. I can tell you right now, Gunnar Stockton is the real deal. I mean, this guy can hum the ball. He can move in the pocket, and he's the coach's son. He knows football, just like Vandegrift. And so we got a good situation there. But Beck deserves the opportunity to be the starter, but based on what he's put in, and it's up to him to hold the job. And he's got it's there for him. He just got to take it. And certainly it looks like we've got an easy start, and more than likely we will. But those games always worried me because everybody's telling you, look, when are we going to pull the starters out, all that stuff. And I'll just remind you, Nicholls State. We played North Carolina and beat them in Kirby's first year. We were fighting our butt off to win that game at the end of the game against Nicholls State because the kids just didn't prepare very good. I mean, they weren't ready, and Nicholls came in there and almost beat us Kirby's second game. So I don't think that's going to happen now because there's just too many good players here. But those little
game.
those games are what we got? UT Martin and then
Ball State,
Fruit Jar Tech.
We do have a little breaking recruiting news from our boy Blaine Gilmer. 5-star defensive end Williams Nawari to make an unofficial visit to Athens this weekend. So
good.
It never stops.
The guy from
Summit, Missouri.
The guy from Lee Summit, Missouri.
I know you've been keeping an eye on him, so he's going to make an unofficial visit this weekend. So
I'll give you a good story on him right now that you wouldn't get anywhere in America. Yesterday, I'm out there in Oklahoma, and when I'm in Oklahoma, I got to go see Coach Switzer. I mean, he's the one that gave me my big opportunity, and he's just the man. I mean, it's like Coach Dooley around here. I mean. If you got a chance to see him, you're going to go see him. And so we met and had breakfast and everything. And, he's 85. He's slowing down a little bit, but mentally straight. And he said, how much you think it's going to cost to get that? What's his name, Williams
Nawari.
He said, how much you think it's going to cost to get him? That's exactly what he said. He said, I'm here. I don't know if we got enough. And what he's talking about legitimately is NIL. This kid has got a lot out there. So, but Irsbury and Jim Donnan were talking about it. And I knew who he was because my son had told me about him. And, of course, keeping up with Blaine and Jed. And what a terrific job they do. I'm going to toot our own horn here. Those guys and Trent Smallwood, those guys do a heck of a job of talking to these kids and keeping us up. I mean, you can't know everything about who's going to commit, when, and do all that. But, when a guy makes an official visit and then you talk to him about what he did and all that, I just love to read about it. But I was aware of this guy more about my own son telling me that he thought that OU was in there good with him. And then first thing Switzer said after we said, how you doing? How's your family? What do you think it's going to take to get?
That's big. Hey, this is number 3 player in the nation, and that's he's a man. So I can see why Oklahoma is fighting tooth and nail, and a couple of old coaches sitting around having breakfast talking about this kid. Now, you can take the coaches out of the game, but you can't take the game out of the coaches. That's for sure.
And here's the other thing. Today's what, June 20th?
Yes, sir.
We're riding to the airport yesterday, June 19th. And they got this station in Norman that they had when I was there. WWLS. That's the way the guy used to say it. And they talk about football from the first of the day to the end of the day. That's all it is. I mean, they don't talk about the Braves like we got people around here with the Braves. It's just OU football. And occasionally somebody will call in about OSU, but very rarely. I mean, they do a little bit. I have to give them, but they're talking about that 2024 schedule. People just can't get enough of, hey, OU coming to the league. they're setting up these trips. I mean, they're so fired up about going to LSU, going to Auburn. They got these big trips planned that you can read about online. That, hey, travel with us. We're going to visit these. So we kind of take that for granted, but these people are fired up about. I mean,
I can't wait to see OU fans in Baton Rouge.
The other thing that they're just totally mesmerized is the fact that Alabama's coming there, and they feel like Georgia might be coming there in 25, but they know Alabama is in 24.
Second question from UGA Alum 95. Coach, what do you make of Florida's recent surge in recruiting, especially in the state of Georgia?
Well, I mean, they got a couple kids for sure. That one they got from Ole Miss, from Mississippi yesterday, was huge, 5-star guy. I mean, and they're certainly making a big deal out of it because they've been so low, but all of a sudden they've jumped it up. I don't know that they've gotten that many that we want, but they've certainly a lot better. I mean, when you've been as bad as they have been in recruiting, they've made a good jump here lately. I'm interested to talk to a couple of our coaches about some of the guys that they got committed. I know they lost a quarterback, which is an interesting scenario. A guy going into 10th grade and he's reclassified and he's going to be going to Mississippi now. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but they say he's 17 years old. But they got that Lagway guy that they still feel like's committed, that quarterback that was in the Elite 11. And, I mean, they got a good class coming in, but it's not anything like what we have or what Alabama will have, but it's a good class.
If you want to be the class of your
the whole thing on Billy Napier was he's a good recruiter. That's all.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing, Billy Napier is a heck of a coach. Yeah. I always had a lot of respect for him. I remember Kirby talking about it when he was assistant coach at Alabama, talking about how complete a receiver coach he was as far as the drills they did against each other and things like that. We were talking about, because, you know, my Marshall ties with Furman, playing Furman and all that. I said, how's that Napier guy? And I remember talking to him. He said, he's a heck of a coach. He said, he's going to be a head coach one of these days. He's very thorough. So that was a long time ago. So the problem is they're losing too many coaches. Their staff they got some guys that just really kind of surprised me that they're coaching. But
well, it goes back to, I mean, I know it's a nebulous concept, but when you're recruiting those players and you're also going after those coaches, like you said, it's fit and character. You know,
I
always kind of I said, no, get the best guy available. But
I always ask them, some of these guys are talking about their staff. I said, well, how many of these guys would do you think could coach for Alabama or, you know, back in the days? But now, how many of those guys do you think would be on Georgia's staff? Or, you know what I mean? So,
no, that's a good way.
And we talk about it. 2024, their schedule in state, they got to play UCF, Miami, and Florida State, plus the 8 conference games. They need to win this year, because I don't know about 2024, man. Woo.
Yeah, that's brutal. Feel bad for them.
Let's sneak in our last break, and then we'll wrap up with the rest of our questions. Dead Soxy.
That's actually, I know a lot of you that if you did not get your dad a good Father's Day present, you can make it up to him right now by checking out Dead Soxy. Go over there, get the good socks, get the stuff from them that you need. Dad's gonna love them. And you know, if you got some, if you're a father and they gave you a couple pair and you're like, oh, these are great, go ahead and get the whole set. Get the red and black ones, you know, and get the ones that you need for the office, because they're incredibly soft. They don't fall down your leg, and they don't have that annoying seam at the front. They're really comfortable, and they have athletic socks. They have the no-shows. So if you want the ones that are, you know, very, very below the line in your shoe, they have those as well. They have the, you know, ones that go high up your calf. You pick the color you want. They have some designer styles out there. So they have our friends at Dead Soxy. Join the little VIP thing. You get free socks that way. It's basically, they'll give them your email address, join their VIP. That doesn't cost you anything, and they'll send you a coupon for free socks, just so they can send you some marketing stuff, which you can promptly say, no, I don't want any more marketing stuff, but at least get a free pair to try out, see what you think. Also, want you to go and visit our friends at Academic Brewing Company. They always have neat stuff going on over there. I always feel bad that we don't get to point out all the cool stuff they have. Like if you're in town for the music festival this weekend, that's a great place to go hang out. You can try a new beer called Granny's Oh Sister, an amazing blend of strawberry, peach, and apple pie tea sour. That sounds amazing. So that's a good one. Of course, if you want something a little stronger than that, you can get their Java Kong. It's their banana coffee pastry stout. Looks phenomenal. I love good stout beers. Just saying, there's always neat stuff going on over there on the beer side of it. And of course, they have a restaurant there. This isn't like a brewery where you're lucky to get some chips and salsa or some beer nuts. If you haven't been by to check out their new blueberry cheesecake, you are really missing a fantastic meal. So it's a very good cheesecake, and they even have a blueberry brew. So just saying, if you are a foodie or if you are a beer connoisseur, or you just want a good place to hang out for a music festival, in between sets, go back to Academic Brewing Company. They'll take great care of you.
Question from North Buckhead, Dog. Where does Coach Donnan expect Jalen Walker and Javon Bullard to get most of their snaps this year? Both are versatile enough to play multiple positions.
Good question.
Who was the first one?
Javon Bullard and Jalen Walker.
Well, we've talked about it before a little bit about Javon is such a good run support guy and is so good at playing the ball in the air as compared to playing pure man coverage like he has to at star position. I think with the guys we've lost in the secondary, I can see him playing more safety than he will star, although he can play that, and he could play that in a dime situation where we'd maybe put Jackson in at safety and he would play the other nickel guy along with whoever the guy would be. Tacky Smith has certainly come along. Jalen Walker, I was talking about Humphrey, how good he looked the other day on the hoof. Jalen Walker, you look at the guy and you say, linebacker. He's just a stallion, but he can play outside, rush the passer on that some of that Jaguar stuff that we do, where you have 6 DBs and 5 linemen, but he can play inside linebacker, play rush the passer, great special teams guy, and could play tight end if you needed him to on a special situation on the goal line. He's just a phenomenal athlete.
All right, so where's he going to play? Where's he going to get most of his snaps? We're going to put you on the spot.
It's just going to be harder to play at linebacker because of the guys we got in there, Depending on Munden's health, though. He's coming off a foot injury, and he would play a lot more at linebacker if Munden's out. But if Munden's back, I could see him playing kind of moving around a little bit more, kind of a hybrid guy.
Coach, you mentioned those first 2 games. WI Dog says, does the fact that we open up with 2 relative cupcakes change anything about the approach in the summer and fall camp as compared to preparations last year when it was Oregon up first? He said, I'd imagine we wouldn't be quite as concerned with peaking early and maybe even use the first 2 as an extended fall camp. Love to know your thoughts, Coach Donnan.
Yeah, he makes a good point. When you got the looming situation against a ranked team, it's kind of everybody's thinking, how much are we going to put in here? How much are we going to work on our total package as compared to what we're going to do for Oregon? I think with the situation with those 2, you can maybe work on all your opponents maybe a little more without giving something away, to your players like you're looking ahead. But, you can just say, we're going to spend some time on these teams too, but it's just to show them their fronts and their stuff and everything like that. But the overriding thing is just a competitive situation we got ourselves going against each other and putting in your packages, and you got to install everything with your special teams too. I was glad to just kind of walk by there and see that freshman kicker and look up and see the ball going through the rafters the other day too. I like to see that.
Oh, nice.
Phil Rogers on Facebook asked, Roddy, is there any news about how Big Baby Hall is doing this summer?
I have not heard a whole lot about Big Baby, but the stuff we heard when he showed up was they were very excited about it because that's a monster.
Is that what they call him?
That's what in the YouTube chat.
I've seen that multiple times. They call him Big Baby.
He's a
Jordan Hall.
You look at him and Harris and all those guys. I mean, like I told everybody, I've never seen a freshman class that's that far along, ready to come in here and help you, like those guys. We got a very outstanding freshman class, and then those two defensive backs from North Carolina that reported, or last week, or when was that? A week, 10 days ago?
No, it's like 3 weeks ago.
Well, whatever they were out, they started coming out here. Whatever they did, those two guys can fly. I mean, and intelligent, picking up the defense. They'll be better, quicker help than you think. Good move by Coach Fran getting those guys in here. I like those guys.
Well, I mean, those three freshman defensive ends just kind of blow my mind. But when we heard about Jordan Hall and Jamal Jarrett, everything was like, look at the size of these monsters coming in here. And
that one defensive end can scratch his ankles with his hands. I mean,
Dave Harris, Samuel, and Pimba are.
Pimba, I mean, just unbelievable.
Damon Wilson.
How much time we got left now?
I have a pair of questions to wrap, both from Howard Eubanks.
And I got to tell this joke because I saw this guy at the airport and said, Coach, could you tell the joke about that you always tell? And I hadn't heard it in 3 or 4 years. And I'm sure most of the people have heard it before, but I like to tell it, but I'm going to tell it anyhow. So go ahead.
All right. Howard Eubanks says, does Jackson Meeks make the next step in development this year?
I like Jackson. He really works hard. He's a great special teams guy, and he's just out there among some really good players. He's very consistent, and he can't have enough guys like him. I think he, kind of like Don Blaylock kind of guy, just there. He's going to make the plays, and hopefully he'll get some more reps.
Howard, keeping the theme for Central Phoenix City, he says, is Georgia looking at Cameron Coleman, the 5-star receiver from Central High School in Phoenix City, Alabama? To which I'll say, Dale McGee's probably known about him for about 10 years at this point, just the way Dale knows that.
Yeah, is he going to be 25 or what? I haven't heard about him for 24, but.
Yeah, that's not a name I know from this class.
Phoenix City, man, home of Jimmy Red Phillips. Auburn, great, 1957.
I'm trying to find the year on. I see 24. Yeah.
If he's a 5-star, I would say we're on him.
Now he's got Alabama, Auburn, Arkansas offers, but I don't.
What year is he?
2024.
I don't think we're on him then.
Shows him as having a Georgia offer. When we do our list, he doesn't really pop up that much.
I promise you there's not a player in the Columbus and Phoenix City area that Dale McGee doesn't know. I can say that with certainty.
He goes over to the hospital every year and checks them out coming out.
he might deliver them. He might be certified to do that too.
I love it.
All right, Coach, time for your joke.
Okay, there's these 3 guys up in Atlanta at the skyscraper that they were building. An Italian guy and a French guy and a Georgia Tech guy. And every day they would come in there and eat lunch, and they would open up their lunch pails. And so finally one day, this Italian guy said, I can't believe it. Every day I open up on my lunch pail, I have the same things, spaghetti and meatballs. If I have that again one more time, I'm going to jump off of this roof. And the French guy opens it up. He says, Sacre bleu. I've got chicken cordon bleu every day. She makes me the same. If I get it tomorrow, I'm going to jump off too. And the tech guy looks in and said, hey, peanut butter and jelly, same thing every day. If I get that, I'll jump off too. So the next day, they come in there and they open up. The first guy, he opens up. I can't believe it. I told her it's the same thing every day. I got the Italian situation here with spaghetti and meatballs. Drive me crazy. I can't live anymore. He jumps off. Sacre bleu. So you got the same thing. You know, I can't eat this French food anymore. Jumps off, and the tech guy like, good Lord, I got the same thing, peanut butter and jelly, and he jumps off. So as fate would have it, you know, 3 guys committed suicide there. They had this memorial service and the weeping widows and everything around there. And the Italian woman said, "Oh, I just can't believe it. He threatened me, but I knew he loved the spaghetti and meatballs. So I fixed it for him again. I didn't know he would jump." And the French lady said, "You know," said Sacre Bleu, said, "he told me not to fix it anymore, but he loves that chicken cordon bleu. He always liked the way I fix it." Said, "I didn't think he would jump." And the lady from Texas said, "I can't figure it out. He makes his own lunchbox."
Gets me every time. I love it.
Hey, it's a good joke, but every 4 or 5 years, just for the dog fans. But I enjoy telling it, and I'm old. But,
Yeah, man. Anytime you can make a Georgia Tech joke, that's the way to end the show on a
yeah, it's a good one. But you know, Tech's getting some recruits too. They're in the top 25. I see where they're getting some pretty good players. So, and I tell you, they got a good quarterback. That kid that transferred in here, good player from Texas A&M. I mean, he's a good player.
We'll wish them luck a little until they play Georgia. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday at noon. We will be back live here taking your questions. Be sure to get them in when we put out the call for questions. And if you're listening to this on an audio podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating, leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that follow button. We'll see you next week.